What's up, y'all? Welcome to Zone 3 Productions. Come see where all the magic happens. So whenever you walk in here, you see the deer heads first, but we're going to start with the turkeys. Very unique story behind these two turkeys right here. They were both killed 7 years apart. I killed this one in 2014, first day of season, hunting with a buddy of mine, and we weren't in the woods for probably 10 minutes, and I was able to shoot this turkey. I mean, we were through the woods as the crow flies, probably 100 yards from my truck where we parked my truck. So that was a pretty cool hunt. 9.5 inch beard, 3/4 inch spurs. And then this guy over here, my 2021 turkey with a 9.5 inch beard, 3/4 inch spurs. I killed him on my buddy's place on private land. Well, the land that you guys see me hunt all the time. I'll have the link to his hunt at the end of the video here. But yeah, 9.5 inch beard, 3/4 inch spurs, two turkeys, 7 years and 25 hours apart from each other. So I thought that was pretty dadgum cool that I got to do that. I ain't going to go into a whole lot of details with the stories. If you guys want to hear the stories, check out the Zone 3 podcast on Spotify. Trying to get on Apple, so we'll just have to see how that turns out. But anyway, yeah, some really cool hunts here. And I love to turkey hunt, but I'm a horrible turkey hunter, so it's just the way that it is. Then right here, I got my turkey calling championship that I won back in 2001. In junior high, got to go to state, took 5th down there, so that was pretty cool. I'm a pretty good turkey caller, I'm just not a good turkey hunter. So just kind of one of those things right there. Let's check out the deer heads. Before we get too much into the deer heads, I'm going to do the 3 that are not hung up. This is my 2014 5-point public land. Shot him with a 30-06. I was hunting with my grandpa. Heard him shoot. I knew I had to get ready because I still had a buck and doe tag left. Knew that they'd filtered down to where I was, so I got ready. And about 60 seconds later, this guy walks in, and I was able to take him, which was pretty cool. I was pretty excited to get him. My first 5-point, because all I killed up to that point was 7 points. So, yeah, 2014 was a pretty cool year. You know, I got the turkey, and then I got this deer, and then another deer I want to show you here in a second. This is my jackalope buck. I don't have no huge deer. I got a couple of big deer, but I don't have no huge deer. But this is my jackalope buck. Real special deer, though. I had hunted the stand a number of times, and all I've seen in this particular stand was does and a spike. That's all I seen. This particular day, I was sitting there, and hill deer ain't huge anyway. I mean, they're big, but some of them get big, but they're not huge. Public land, killed him with my bow. Second weekend of bow season, he came in with a spike. The spike came in first, and I seen another deer coming with him. And he walked in 15 yards, and I was able to put an arrow through him. So I call him my jackalope buck because that's probably a Boone and Crockett jackalope. But anyway, real cool hunt, real special deer anyway, no matter what. Very unique. I kind of like him. This is my pronghorn 6-point. Nothing special. Killed him with a 30-30. What does make him special is the fact that I tagged out on my grandpa's 20 acres that is not normally good for holding deer. So I was able to tag out, and he happened to be one of the deer that I tagged out on. Killed him with a 30-30. First day of rifle season. He came in. Look, he was actually growing a point right here too, if you can see that. I'm still going to call him a 6-point. I don't know, they say if you can hang a ring on it, then... Anyway, I can't get my ring off. But yeah, pretty cool little buck. I was happy to get him. Get some deer meat anyway. I like his bladed action right here. Now we're going to go around to the bigger deer. This deer don't look like anything special, but he's very special to me. This was the first buck that I harvested on my grandpa's property. Whenever I seen him, I just thought he was a 4-point. I seen this, and I seen this, and I seen this, but I didn't see that or that. In the state of Arkansas, in most cases, they have to have 3 on one side. He had 3 on one side, so I shot him. Once again, I mean, I had to put a lot of work into Grandpa's property to get it to where, I was able to start shooting deer, and I was able to tag out. I got 2 bucks and 2 does, 2016 7-point with my bow. This is my 2021 7-point. I probably could have let him go a couple more years to see what he would turn into, but I didn't. I was going to shoot a doe that morning. I had every intention of shooting a doe, and I got him on camera. He was one of the bigger ones I had on camera at that point in time that year. But that spot, I mean, really, as soon as you get into later October, you start seeing more bucks. He didn't actually come in until middle of October, but I started seeing him more frequently on camera. But I was going to kill a doe that morning. I had time before the football game started to go deer hunting, and I was coaching that afternoon, so I kind of had to do a morning hunt. Anyway, I went in there to shoot a doe. The doe would not stop. I tried to stop her. Didn't even get it on film. None of it on film. But because obviously I was filming at that time. But I was able to get him. Whenever he was kind of walking out, he was going the same direction the doe was. I kind of whispered a little prayer, Lord, if it's in your will. And I shot him, and he ran about 60 yards and piled up. So that was a pretty cool little bow hunt. Good memory right there. This is my 2014 7-point. At the time, the biggest buck I had ever harvested. Me and a buddy of mine would go into this public land about once a week and check my camera. I had a camera set up there, and we'd go in. Well, it was actually the buddy of mine that I killed a turkey with. We'd go in once a week to check the camera, and I did have some bucks on there, but nothing extravagant at that point in time. And we kept seeing this buck. About every other time we went in there, we would see this buck right here. He looked at me, and I looked at him the last time we seen him, and he said, "You could kill that deer." And I said, "Yeah, and he'd be the biggest one I ever killed too." And so we moved the camera down to where we kept seeing him, and I was able to connect on him the first evening of the 2014 bow hunt. So that was pretty cool that I got him. Going to move over here to Tank. He was one of the oldest deer that I killed at that point in time. 5.5-year-old 8-point. He just wasn't going to get no better. He was at his prime. He had that Roman nose to him. Just a heck of a deer, like body-wise. It actually made his rack look smaller because of how big his body actually was. It was pretty incredible to see, whenever I got my hands on him finally, just seeing how big of a deer he was. But kind of heard some chasing up on the ridge where I got my stand at, where I had my stand at this year, at the beginning of the year in Crazy Season Part 1. I heard some running up there, and I knew that there was a buck after a doe, so I just pulled out my grunt call and started grunting. Seconds later, this guy walks in. And this was the first year I was actually filming, back whenever the channel was called Triple TV, and I didn't have a chance to get the camera on him. It was such a quick shot, because I seen him coming in. I knew I didn't want to move too much. The wind was blowing to the west, into the west, and he was coming from the north on the west side of me. I was set up for them to come from my left, or from my right, and he ended up coming in from my left. And as soon as he got to that cedar tree that I knew he was 23 yards, he stopped. And I'm like, well, I better shoot him because he's winded me. And I drew back on him and shot him. He went about 40 yards and piled up. This is my 2018 buck, 5-point. I killed him with the 30-30. I call him the stalker. Every time I moved my camera, because I only had one at the time, this guy followed me. I was actually after another deer, a big wide 8-point that we're going to get to here in a second. But he kept following me, and I got 2 buck tags, so I'm like, you know what? If I see that deer again, I'm going to shoot him. This was the first deer ever I seen on my buddy's place whenever I first started hunting out there. and I was able to connect with him during the second weekend of gun season. Kind of did a little rattling and grunting sequence. Within seconds, I seen movement in the cedar trees, and I was standing underneath a tree, and he came in, and I got him. This is my 2019 10 point, my first 10 point ever, obviously. This is the arrow that I shot him with right here. This deer, I thought he was bigger than what he was, but obviously he wasn't. And after I shot him, I got a little bit better. I just got one deer that didn't hit 3.5 to 4.5 years old since I shot him, which that deer from 21 that I just showed you. Anyway, that was a pretty cool hunt. It's still memorable, still unique deer, and it just inspired me to do better as a hunter. Like I said, just one deer that didn't hit 4.5 at least. And this one right here, another special deer, at the time was my biggest. Killed him 4 years after I killed that 7 point over there. Captain Crook is what I call him because he's got a crooked G3. But this guy, real cool deer. My boss told me that I could hunt on his property. He had 1,500 acres. The rules were he was going to put me in a spot and I could not hunt anywhere else but that spot unless he told me I could. The second rule was the bucks had to be 4.5 years old and above and at least an 8 point, and the does had to be about 3.5 before we could shoot him. And I told him, I said, I'm used to hunting public land where if you don't shoot it, then you're not going to get a deer more than likely that year. Anyway, I told him, I said, I'll set up a camera and you could just tell me what deer I can and cannot shoot. And we both agreed on this one right here. I was pretty excited to get him, shot him with a 30-30 in 2016. Go check out the big boys. This is a deer that I call Captain Hook. He's got some really cool stuff going on with his brow tines up here. This was the first deer that I ever heard snort wheeze. It was just an awesome experience, awesome hunt. I actually got this filmed. I didn't get the kill shot filmed, but I do have the whole story about him here on YouTube. So I'll link this hunt and then I'll link the 2021 turkey hunt at the end of the video here. But this guy was just a really cool deer, really cool story behind him. Didn't know anything about this deer, never seen him before in my life. Got some really cool characteristics going on with his right side over here, but I wish he would have had that G2, and I wish his G3 would have been a little bit longer, and I believe he might have been an 11. I think he broke off a kicker in his G2, but his G3, it was just an inch long. So score wise, he ain't going to score very high, but just a good mature whitetail that, I mean, just a heck of a hunt. And I love going back and reliving that one right there. So, and this is the guy that started it all. This is the Big 10. Remember whenever I told you in the studio that I was looking at an 8 point whenever I showed you guys that Stalker 5 point? I got him on camera, and this was actually the deer that I was hunting. But I kept telling myself that deer would look a whole lot better as a 10 point. And in 2019, he rolled in, first time I ever seen him on hoof, and I was able to get an arrow through him. So that was, he's my biggest one. I don't know what he scores, but I'm not into the score stuff. I'm one of those people that, you know, shoot what makes you happy and hunt how you want to, as long as you're doing it legally and ethically. You know, that's all that I think about whenever hunting season. I like killing big bucks, obviously, but anyway, obviously my biggest buck, killed him in 2019, like I said. That was a really good year for me. 2021 was a really good year for me. 2020 was a good year for me. 22 wasn't that good of a year, but it's just one of those things that, you know, it's learning. You know, you never stop learning whenever you're hunting. But yeah, this was the guy that kind of set it all up, you know, for me to want to start to film my hunts. And I was pretty fortunate to get him, and I really can't wait to see what happens this year. So. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I was really thinking about doing this one. I've been really wanting to do this one for a long time. Then I finally got the opportunity to do it. Got all my deer back, got all my deer done that I've killed over the years. I had that one 8-point. I had him in the deep freeze. I was going to get him mounted, but I'm glad I didn't. He would look, itty bitty compared to these two. I was able to get some deer heads European mounted, get my deer head back from Jeremiah at Judge Taxidermy. Just some really cool hunts that I've been on. And I got a couple of really good deer right here, and I got that one real good one in the studio. But the thing of it is, I just love deer hunting. That's what it boils down to. I love deer hunting. I love everything that goes into deer hunting, just like I love fishing. It doesn't matter if it's a 10-pound largemouth or if it's just a 14-ounce panfish, perch or brim or whatever. I love to hunt and I love to fish, and I love sharing it with you guys. So hope you all enjoyed this episode. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. Turn on notifications, and I'll see you all